Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're all doing well, and welcome to this community showdown. It's going to be the Vampire Counts led by Chibambu facing off against Kislev, who's going to be helmed by Rusto here on the Dusted Steppe, and it looks like it's going to be Mannfred von Baldstein versus an Ice Witch. All right, let's get this party started. Let's have some fun, and thank you all for joining. So for the Vampire Counts army, it's going to be the Baldness, and what is he going to be rocking? So it looks like we have Winds of Death and Invo. Okay, Winds of Death very good against Kislev. If they have a battle line of Kossars or anything that's very hardy and stalwart, it can do a brutal amount of damage. And it's going to be a foot Mannfred. That's super rare. Which, on foot, he's harder to snipe for sure with shooting. You just got to mix him in with the zombies, and that's going to be synergistic with his Sword of Unholy Power, which is going to be giving him reserve. So he's just going to sit and grind and generate Winds of Magic. We also have Corpse Carts to buff up nearby units, and the rest of the army here is going to be mostly Skeletors and Skeletons. So really the big spend on the army is the Double White King on horseback with those, the Corpse Carts, Cryptors, and Mannfred von Baldness here. On the other side, for Kislev, it is going to be a battle line of Kossars, backed up by archers, and this is kind of an old school playstyle against Vampire Counts, just like a tanky front line with the staggered archers in the back to put pressure on their big monsters, which I like. Got a couple of halberds on the flanks, and the very, very meta and powerful Frostworm Ice Witch. So anti-large, armor-piercing, frost damage. We do also have the Hailstorm just to kind of nail Graveguard, and it looks like Hawk's a Miska, which is incredibly good at dealing with chaff because it discourages the undead, which already have base low leadership, gets them to crumble, and generates value for you. So advancing up, here are the Kislevites. We'll do a little bit of fast forwarding while we get this party started. Double Dervishes going to be grabbing Objective Dose. Meanwhile, Objective Uno here is going to be setting up shop. And now the time is on. The battle is here. Mortis Engine called out for the Vampire Counts. Now, Mortis Engines are amazing against any sort of good quality infantry like Kossars, for example. But the hard part is going to be keeping it alive from all the bow fire, as well as the Ice Witch on the Dragon. That's not going to be an easy one here for Chibambu. The rest of the Undead army now is going to be shambling forth, while Kislev does have the objective advantage. And this map is also, I would say this little choke point here is good for Kislev. It's going to make it hard to envelop them. Another unit that can be niche useful against Kislev sometimes, I think, can be Cairn Wraiths and Hex Wraiths, depending on the magic they bring. But I guess with the Hawks of Miska, it's a little bit risky to bring those ethereal units because they'll just crumble and take so much work. But Colin is going to be more Cryptors, and immediately we do see shooting going in, and the Frostworm is going to be charging into the Zombos. They have pretty cool animations, how they're kind of like ice skating on that snow. I think that looks really nice. But the Frostworm is able to get some freebies and then does just retreat back while these zombies shake their undead fists angrily in the air, wishing that they were, what they were in their former lives, mighty powerful warriors who could actually fight back. But on another day. Here is Mannfred. He's coming up. Are we going to see an early Winds of Death? You could see an early bowling pin, like going down like this, but I highly doubt they're going to do that. That would be very ballsy, and I think that Rusto would be able to dodge that pretty easily. I suspect the Vampire Counts are just going to play cautious and try and summon out the answers they need to win this army. And that's kind of one of the things in Dom, right? If you don't have the correct tools to deal with your opponent's army initially in the battle, you can play defensively, just kind of sit back and then call in the answers. But they can do the same thing too, right? They're going to be calling stuff in. And for the Vampires, looks like it's going to be Dervishes and also another Frostworm. So we do get the dreaded double Frostworm. That's going to be tough to deal with. Those things are pretty beast mode. Vampire Counts, of course, do have halberds now, but Cryptors are decent against large targets. They hit hard and have high melee attack near Corpse Guards, so what's not to love? So we'll do some fast forwarding while the two armies build up. More shooting coming in from the Kislevites, which is smart. Just move up and, get rid of the zombies with some of your hybrid shooting here. And are these Ice Witches? No, I got excited. I thought we had Ice Witches there. But yeah, it's just going to be a Cryptor party. So zombies advancing in, crumbling, 72 models. They're not going to be long for this earth. And the big old Ice Witch here also able to punish these zombies. In the meantime, Skeleton Spearmen moving up to attack the Kislevite warriors. Down to the backside, the Skeleton warriors and zombies getting ready to go as well. White King's probably going to start dropping Scab Scrays here in a second. Looks like they are going to be zeroing in on the Ice Witch here, and I think there's going to be a Snow Leopard summon, which is a good call. Snow Leopard summon can turn around and go after the White King, but the White King actually got some really, really good damage against the Ice Witch there and continues to hunt that character down. Here comes the Cryptors, though. That is going to be the folding of the Kislev front line. Man, Scab Scraith is so good. Does so much damage against light armor. That's absolutely savage. And now there's going to be a Winds of Death coming in, which is going to insta-delete this unit. If it had been tilted a little bit more this way. Oh my god, the KO on the Winds of Death. That is so savage, that spell. It literally just deletes source code, man. You gotta love it. So here we get the White Kings, and they are going to be forced back by the Ice Witch as well as the Frostworm. And we do have Skeleton Warriors who are going to be pushing up through the secondary. A Mannfred von Karstein just fighting and grinding, and his Sword of Unholy Power is going to be generating some resources, while the Mortis Engine dives into the secondary lines and does get in contact with a bunch of spear units. A bit of a blunder by Rusto, maybe not to get all of these Kossars and start wasting into the Mortis Engine here. I think they could have done a good job maybe getting it low. They are going for the Cryptors, which is also a very viable target, but again, I think that's a bit of a mistake. Although we do have the Frostworms to go after. So the Frostworms are going to come in with their anti-large attacks. We do see one White King diving into the Kossars back here with the Skeletons who penetrated through. And also there's going to be a big dive of Vargeist. Now Vargeist are pretty chad at killing armor. They should be able to tear through these units pretty effectively. So the armored Kossar is going to get ripped to shreds. But the Halberds, if they do pile in and help with the Dervishes, could be good. Oh my god, another Winds of Death. It's so with Mannfred, you get so much Winds of Magic that you can afford to spam Winds of Death like this. Oh my god, just insta-deleting Kislev units. But even with those crazy values we're seeing from Vampire counts, the value trading is still more or less even. I would say favored for Vampire counts because of the copious amounts of healing they do have here, but man, that's brutal. So I like this tech here by Rusto, calling in the Mordheim Beowulfs. These things are rad because they mitigate healing. So when they hit you, they reduce the amount of healing you get, which is going to be very nice. So here they are going to be bonking into the Cryptors, and these Cryptors will not receive their passive healing while that's active. And now we see the double Frostworms and the Hoxa Miska combo. So that's really cool. Discouraging the leadership of all these units here, crumbling the chaff support units, allowing the Frostworms to isolate the bigger threats that they want to be using their anti-large attacks in, right? So that's very, very cool. Mortis Engine still surfing around in pretty good shape. Kislev calling in the Oath Brothers of Tor, and looking at the bow line here, it's looking a little bit rough. We do get the Secret Agent Karen Race, which I like, because now that the fighting is kind of taking place over here, mixing in a couple Karen Race with their armor-piercing attacks against Kossars, I think is going to be incredibly sweet. So they do get in there, and we do see the Kislevite Warriors starting to fold up, and value trading is very, very even. These guys are neck and neck here in this battle. I would say overall probably looks a little bit advantageous for the Vampire counts, but you can never count out those Kislev monsters. They're very scary. And yeah, getting that Mortis Engine would be a big, big game changer. That would give your troops much more sustainability and take away a lot of elements from the Vampire Count's army. And if you hit it too, these Frostworms do have Frostbite, right? So if they just make contact with it, they haven't hit it yet. It's at 48 speed. Oath Brothers of Tor, hot in pursuit. And what are the Vampire Counts going to use to protect this Mortis Engine? We got Karen Race coming out and Dire Pack. Dire Pack's not a bad choice. They are infantry size, so they mitigate the anti-large bonus of the Bear Cav, and they also have anti-large themselves. So here they come, and that actually is going to be some potentially decent damage. We'll have to see. One more Karen Racer called in, and Mannfred von Karslein helps defeat the Mordheim Beowulfs, and once again another Winds of Death going to be coming down. Oh my god, it's so brutal! It does so much damage. Also drags down a bunch of dervishes as well. So that is going to be a beautiful run, beautiful one right there. Oath Brothers of Tor use their big AoE bombardment. Meanwhile, the Kislevites have a bit of an erection for the Mortis Engine here, so they're trying to chase it down, but the Oath Brothers are being dragged down by the Direwolves a little bit. Probably at this point, just turning with your bears and finishing off the Dire Pack before you try and hunt down the Mortis Engine would be, I think, a slightly better play. Moving on this side, though, we do see the Patriarch coming in, so now Kislev has healing, which is going to make the game a lot harder for the Vampire counts. Some hybrid shooting coming back online via some of the bow units, which of course can help wear down the zombies, but the Kislev battle lines have been folded pretty heavily. It's mainly just their SEs and their real powerful kind of carry pieces that are left. Kislevite Warriors thinking about maybe trying to press a back objective, and Winged Lancers on their way in. So this is actually kind of big. Mannfred could be left alone. I mean, the Cryptors do get an invo, which is very nice, and it looks like they ran out of the Vortex. Not quite crumbling, very close. The Hawks does lower leadership quite a bit, but now they're going to be moving back in, but so too are the Winged Lancers. I mean, this fight here should be very advantageous for Kislev. Beautiful Winged Lancer charge right there. Was able to get right into the face of those big, scary Cryptors. And with that charge bonus, the Cryptors will probably start to melt relatively quickly. We'll have to see. 9 leadership in the anti-large Frostworms. Ice Switch with the Salax Lullaby. Absolutely brutal. And now the Dire Pack's going to be coming across here. So the Dire Pack is going to be helping to saturate in and prevent the Vampire counts from being overwhelmed in that position. Meanwhile, as far as the objectives go, Objective 1 is owned by Kislev, and it looks like the Karen Race are going to be able to steal that. That's a really nice bombardment right there. Going to be hitting Karen Race and a couple other units. But now the Corpse Carts are moving in. Mannfred losing his support, though. He's losing his religion here as the Cryptors do get melted down. Dire Pack is not long, and looks like Vampires will be able to hold this point. I think that the Spears will be able to defeat the Warriors. It's just going to take a long time. And will Mannfred endure? Chibambu pulling a bit of a value lead here. The baldness on the ground is hanging in there because these anti-large monsters are struggling to hit the infantry. Corpse Guards coming in, going to be providing the nice buffs. Mannfred is still a very powerful vampire. 75-55 stat line is pretty nuts. So he's probably, punching up pretty well. What I would probably think Kislev would do well is maybe go over here and flank these spears. But now that we do see the Vargeist coming in as reinforcements, that's going to seal the doom of the Winged Lancers. At this point, you run the Winged Lancers into the Shadow Realm. Because otherwise you're just going to be feeding the Vargeist fresh fish. And it looks like they're going to try and get a charge off before they do get karate chopped by the big scary fell beast in the sky. And Mannfred is slowly defeating this Ice Witch in combat. And it makes sense with the Mortis Engine there, Karen Race doing 100% AP, Corpse Carts with their supporting buffs as well. There's a lot of things there that are looking very, very good for the Vampires. Now, as far as this objective goes, it looks like Count Chocula was able to hold on to this. Kislev does have some warriors on their way up, but they're going to be pretty awful against Karen Race. They just don't have the damage to get through that Ethereal. And looking at Objective 2 here, Mannfred and company looks like they're starting to win the bump and grind. His value, I would guess, probably around 2,000. Let's see. Yeah, 2,300. And most of that is from the Winds of Death, obviously, but probably about 1,000 of it is, of course, going to be coming from his punching attacks on the big dragon characters. And the Winged Lancers are starting to crumble. The old Patriarch, the Kislev Paladin, going to be giving some nice buffs to these bad boys here. And of course, does he have the item for the buffs? It looks like he just has the battle prayers. We do see one eye switch being forced back. Chibambu looking pretty good. 937. Kislev moving up with the warriors and the Kossars here. And now more zombies arriving to the point, which is probably going to give them enough to hold that objective. We'll have to see. Meanwhile, on the other side, the Ice Witch is going to be coming across, looking to try and snipe this this character. It looks like the White King could be in some trouble. White Kings are very, very tough, and there are some Crypt Horrors sprinting in from the distance. And the Hex Ray is hot on the tail here of this Ice Witch. 2270 in terms of HP, but you can see the HP is diminishing a little bit, although they are struggling to make contact with that. And maybe she's going to be able to finish the job. If she had, brought Ice Magic, for example, and had Death Frost, she probably could have killed a couple of these characters and also finished the Mortis Engine off, but Hoxa Miska is also incredibly good in this matchup too. So both Lords of Magic are, I would say, viable. But Kislev does end up losing this fight. The Crypt Horrors and the White King able to grind down the Frostform. Mannfred walking over here. You guys know it's coming. It's going to be a fat, oh god, it's going to be Gotham's Reckoning. So once again, you guys ready for this? The Winds of Death. Oh god, it just melts them, and look at the damage they took. Yeah, they're literally down to it doesn't kill models, but it does, I'm pretty sure Winds of Death usually doesn't kill models, but it does HP damage. Oh my god. So they literally, each of these models will die in one hit. And as soon as they buy our Blood Wares off, they're going to be running. So that's a huge win for Chibambu and Mannfred, who is just the magic man here today. Looking at the battlefield, this game looks pretty over. It ain't my first rodeo. We do see the Patriarch being beaten down. One of the Frostworms here is in trouble. And I think the other Ice Witch character is also kind of off the table. Looks like the Crypt Horrors were able to finish her. Yep, there she is right there. So it did end up falling. So that's going to be GG, well played. I suspect Kislev will tap out here in the next 30 seconds. I'd be thoroughly surprised if they didn't. Although sometimes in the heat of tournament games, which this was, people can kind of forget to do that. So GG, well played. Really fun. Kislev is very strong, of course. I still think one of the stronger factions in the game. But they're more balanced now, right? They're sitting around 52% win rate. They're winning games. They're losing games. It's not like they're just dominating people with a 70% win rate, which is really, really nice to see. Chibambu is a really good player, too. I ran into his Dark Elves in a tournament a couple weeks back, and he was a really, really tough opponent. Rusto's also great, too. 3,000 value on Mannfred. He definitely carried that game. The Mannfred Winds of Death were just breaking those Kislev formations open, which was brutal. Mortis Engine 2,200. Vargeist are amazing against heavy cav factions. Ooh, we even had a Graveguard Halberd in there. He didn't quite come out. 1,300 here, not bad. 2,700 on that Frostworm character. This one got 21. So the Frostworms were the elements of the army that did good. It just seems like the rest of the army, the Kossar Corps, they just got folded up like paper, and that was the big problem. Anyways, guys, GG, well played. Hopefully you enjoyed that one, and we will see you all on the other side.